Excuses are the most dangerous virus infecting potential. They disguise themselves as logic, but they're really just lies dressed up to sound smart. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't know the right people. That's the language of limitation. And the longer you speak it, the smaller your world becomes. The truth is, nobody ever built something great with perfect timing, unlimited resources, or total certainty. They built it because they decided the mission mattered more than the excuse. Every excuse is a mental anchor. You can't accelerate toward your goal if your mind keeps slamming the brakes. You want more money, more freedom, more power. Stop waiting for permission. You can't make progress and make excuses at the same time. You have to pick one. The reason people stay stuck is not because they lack talent. It's because they keep defending their limitations. They've convinced themselves that the story they're telling about why they can't is the truth. But the truth is, that story is optional. You wrote it and you can rewrite it. When you catch yourself saying, I can't, switch it to how can I? That one question flips your brain from victim mode to victory mode. Excuses are mental quit buttons. Every time you press one, your confidence drops. But when you challenge it, when you refuse to let yourself off the hook, your power starts to rise. People love to say, I would, but stop right there. That but is the border between mediocrity and greatness. Everything you want sits on the other side of deleting that word from your vocabulary. Excuses are seductive because they make you feel safe. They give you a reason not to risk, not to fail, not to face discomfort. But safety is the enemy of success. You can't grow inside a cage, no matter how comfortable it is. Every excuse is a small surrender. One today becomes a pattern tomorrow, and eventually that pattern becomes your personality. The only way to break that cycle is to confront it head on. Call yourself out. Be ruthless about your standards. When you start taking full responsibility for your outcomes, the wins and the losses, you unlock control. You can't fix what you refuse to own. Excuses shift ownership away from you. And once you give that away, you lose the steering wheel of your life. Winners take responsibility even for things they didn't cause because they know responsibility equals power. Losers blame, winners build. You've got to decide who you're going to be, the person who always has a reason or the person who always finds a way. Every time you justify why you can't do something, someone else out there is doing it anyway. While you're explaining, they're executing. Look at any person who's built something big. They didn't have fewer obstacles. They just refused to let obstacles become excuses. The moment something got hard, they didn't say, I can't. They said, I will. That's the difference between ordinary and unstoppable. Excuses keep you talking. Action keeps you transforming. Life doesn't reward your explanations. It rewards your execution. If you want the next level, you have to outgrow the habit of explaining failure. Replace explanation with exploration. Instead of saying, here's why it didn't work, start asking, what can I do differently next time? Your brain will fight you at first. It loves comfort. It loves shortcuts. But every time you reject an excuse, you train your mind to trust your own power. Eventually, that becomes your new normal. Operating from responsibility, not rationalization. You stop waiting for the stars to align and you start aligning your actions with your goals. You stop negotiating with your limitations. You stop saying someday and start saying today, because the truth is success doesn't come to the person with the best circumstances. It comes to the one who refuses to excuse their circumstances. Negative people are silent killers of ambition. They don't always scream failure in your face. Sometimes they whisper doubt, quietly stealing your confidence one comment at a time. You start with fire in your chest, a dream, a plan, a mission, and then they come in with their casual poison. Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. That's not possible. It sounds harmless, but it's deadly. Every time you absorb that energy, it chips away at your belief. You begin to shrink to fit the expectations of people who've already quit on themselves. You can't rise surrounded by anchors. You can't chase greatness while holding hands with mediocrity. The people around you shape your reality more than you realize. Their conversations become your thoughts. Their standards become your limits. Their fears become your caution signs. If you spend your time with complainers, you start seeing problems instead of opportunities. If you spend your time with winners, you start seeing possibilities instead of barriers. It's that simple. Energy is contagious. And you need to decide what infection you're willing to catch. When you hang around people who constantly talk about what can't be done, you're programming yourself to stay small. The longer you stay in that atmosphere, the more normal it feels to underperform. Negative people don't just talk, they drain. They drain your motivation, your enthusiasm, and your focus. They love to gossip, criticize, and complain because that's their comfort zone. Misery needs company. And if you're not careful, you'll become their favorite company. You'll start matching their energy just to fit in. You'll start downplaying your wins so they don't feel insecure. You'll start apologizing for being driven. That's how greatness dies. Not in a loud crash, but in slow compromise. You've got to protect your energy like it's your fortune, because it is. One conversation with the wrong person can derail an entire day. One negative comment can echo in your mind for weeks if you let it. You can't afford to keep people around who sabotage your focus. You can't afford to keep explaining your vision to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. Stop trying to convince them. Stop trying to get approval from the unmotivated. The truth is, you don't need everyone to believe in you. You need to believe in you. And the moment you start believing at a higher level, you'll naturally outgrow the people who don't. Distance doesn't always mean disrespect. Sometimes it means self-respect. When you remove negative people from your environment, you make space for growth, for clarity, for new levels of momentum. You stop wasting time defending your dreams and start spending time building them. You start surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, push you, and celebrate your progress. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You can't stay aligned with your purpose if you're constantly absorbing energy that contradicts it. The most dangerous negative people are often the ones closest to you, friends, family, coworkers, the ones who love you but limit you. They'll say they're protecting you, that they don't want to see you get hurt, but really they're just projecting their own fears onto you. Don't mistake their comfort for care. Don't confuse their love with leadership. You can love someone and still choose to limit their influence over your decisions. Boundaries are not betrayal. They're the border between your destiny and your distractions. Every successful person you've ever admired had to make this cut. They had to walk away from certain crowds, certain conversations, certain energies, because you can't move at full speed with people pressing on your brakes. You can't think big when everyone around you thinks small. You can't dream boldly when every idea gets dissected and doubted. You can't be inspired when your environment is filled with complaints, sarcasm, and small talk. You were not built to fit in. You were built to stand out. And standing out means surrounding yourself with people who pull the best out of you, not the worst. Your environment is your silent partner in success. Every person in your circle is either multiplying your mindset or dividing it. Every conversation is either pushing you forward or pulling you back. Negative people will always find a reason why something won't work. Positive people will always find a way it can. One keeps you stuck in hesitation. The other propels you into action. You have to choose which one you'll allow in your world. The people you permit in your space determine the pace of your progress. And if you don't control that, they will. The fear of judgment is one of the biggest invisible chains holding people back from greatness. It's not failure that destroys most dreams. It's the fear of what others will say if you fail. You start something bold, you take a risk, and instantly your mind starts playing that old soundtrack. What if they laugh? What if they don't support me? What if I look foolish? That's how average is created, not through lack of skill, but through surrender to the opinions of people who aren't even chasing anything themselves. Most people never step into their full potential because they're too busy performing for an audience that isn't even paying attention. The truth is, People are going to talk no matter what you do. If you play small, they'll call you lazy. If you go big, they'll call you arrogant. If you succeed, they'll say you got lucky. If you fail, they'll say they knew it all along. You can't win their approval, so stop trying. The only way to truly win is to live a life that's authentic to your vision. When you start caring less about how you look and more about who you're becoming, you start to unlock real power. The fear of judgment is just misplaced focus. You're giving too much energy to spectators and not enough to the mission. Everyone has opinions, but opinions don't pay your bills. They don't build your dreams. They don't carry the weight of your goals. You do. So why are you letting people with zero investment in your future dictate your direction? Most of the judgment you fear isn't even real. It's just imagine you've built stories in your head about what people might think, and those stories are stealing your action. You're hesitating because of ghosts. You're worrying about critics who don't matter, and in doing so, you're giving them control they never earned. The people who judge you for chasing your dreams are really just exposing their own insecurity. They don't hate your drive. They hate their lack of it. When someone can't see themselves doing something great, they'll attack anyone who tries. That's projection, not truth. The stronger your vision becomes, the louder the noise will get. But that's not a signal to stop. It's proof you're moving. People don't throw stones at statues that haven't been built. The moment you start building something meaningful, you'll attract opinions. That's the cost of standing out. You've got to decide whether you want validation or victory. You can't have both. The path to success is uncomfortable because it requires you to move in ways most people don't understand. They'll question you, doubt you, even mock you, but that's fine. They don't need to get it. The vision wasn't given to them. It was given to you. If you keep waiting for universal approval, you'll never move. The crowd is never ready when the chosen one steps up. You don't need applause to perform. You need purpose. The irony is the same people who judge you now will eventually admire you later. Once you win, once you rise, once you prove that your belief wasn't arrogance but preparation, those critics will rewrite their stories. But by then, you won't care. Because once you've learned to move without validation, you've learned to move with freedom. Fear of judgment is really fear of freedom, fear of being misunderstood, fear of standing alone. But the moment you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you become unstoppable. Every great leader, every top performer, every entrepreneur who changed the game had to conquer this fear. They had to learn to speak, act, and move despite disapproval. They had to be okay with being the only believer in a room full of doubters. They had to push through awkward stares, whispered criticism, and public failure. They learned that being judged is the price of impact. If you're not being judged, you're not doing anything that matters. The higher you climb, the more visible you become. And visibility always invites opinion. You can't control that, but you can control how much it slows you down. The secret is to turn judgment into fuel. Let it sharpen you instead of shaking you. Let it remind you that you're in motion while others are standing still. Every time someone doubts you, you gain an opportunity to prove what belief looks like in action. You don't silence critics by arguing. You silence them by executing. The fear of judgment loses power the moment you stop negotiating with it. The world doesn't need another person blending in. It needs someone bold enough to lead, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when everyone is watching and waiting to see if you'll break. Distractions are the silent thieves of destiny. They don't come crashing through the door. They sneak in quietly, disguised as harmless entertainment, small breaks or quick scrolls. 1 minute you're working on your dream. The next you're deep in someone else's highlight reel, comparing your behind the scenes to their perfect moment. That's how focus dies, not through disaster, but through constant diversion. Every beep, every buzz, every unnecessary notification is a small cut to your momentum. You tell yourself it's only a few minutes, but those minutes compound into hours, and those hours compound into lost opportunity. The world today is built to steal your attention. Every app, every ad, Every platform is fighting to pull you away from your purpose. And if you don't protect your focus, someone else will profit from it. You can't create greatness while living in reaction mode. You can't move mountains while being moved by every vibration in your pocket. The most valuable currency in the world right now isn't money, it's attention. Where your attention goes, your future grows. The problem is most people are giving their attention away for free. Focus isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. You've got to get brutally honest about what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Every time you chase distractions, you're saying no to your goals. Every time you indulge in meaningless activity, you're training your brain to settle for stimulation instead of satisfaction. That's why people feel busy but stay broke. Active but unproductive. They're confusing motion with progress. Productivity isn't about how much you do. It's about how much of what you do actually moves the needle forward. You have to take control of your environment. If your phone owns your time, it owns your results. Turn off what doesn't serve you. Schedule what matters. Protect your mornings like sacred ground. The first few hours of your day set the tone for everything else. If you start with chaos, you'll spend the rest of the day in recovery. If you start with clarity, you'll spend the rest of the day in control. You can't expect championship level outcomes while living with amateur level focus. The top performers in any field don't have more hours in the day. They just eliminate what doesn't deserve one. Every distraction carries a cost. It doesn't just take your time. It takes your presence. It pulls you out of the zone, out of flow, out of momentum. And the more you allow distractions, the weaker your ability to focus becomes. Focus is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. The less you use it, the softer it becomes. When you're constantly interrupting yourself, you're building a habit of fragmentation. You're teaching your brain to crave interruption. That's why so many people can't sit in silence anymore. Their minds are addicted to noise. The ability to focus deeply is a superpower in a distracted world. It's rare, and that's exactly why it's valuable. You can separate yourself from 99% of people simply by mastering concentration. When everyone else is distracted, the person who's dialed in becomes unstoppable. Discipline creates distance. The distance between average and exceptional is measured in minutes of focus. If you can control your attention for long stretches, you can control outcomes most people only dream about. You've got to decide what kind of person you want to be, the one who reacts to everything or the one who chooses what matters. You can't let trivial things dictate the pace of your progress. Every time you look away from your mission, you lose momentum. Every time you choose distraction, you delay your destiny. The difference between success and stagnation isn't talent or luck. It's focus. It's the willingness to say no to 99 things so you can say yes to one thing that changes everything. The moment you realize your time is your greatest asset, you'll start treating it like treasure, not like loose change. You'll stop chasing attention and start channeling it. You'll stop living in reaction and start living with intention. Comfort zones are the silent killers of progress. They feel warm, safe, and familiar, but what they're really doing is numbing your potential. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you teach your brain to settle. You convince yourself that things are fine, that you're okay where you are, that there's no need to push harder. But deep down, you know you're not fulfilled. Comfort tricks you into believing you're winning when in reality, you're just standing still. Growth doesn't happen where it's easy. It happens where it's uncomfortable, where it stretches you, where you feel that mix of fear and excitement that tells you you're moving into new territory. The mind is wired to protect you from pain, and that's why comfort is so seductive. It whispers that risk is dangerous, that rejection hurts, that failure is final. But every major success story is built on the other side of that fear. Every skill, every breakthrough, every level of confidence comes from stepping into something unknown and proving you can handle it. The people who dominate their industries, who build empires, who create movements, they didn't start fearless. They just decided that their vision mattered more than their comfort. They were willing to look foolish, to fail publicly, to start small, because they understood that safety and success don't live in the same neighborhood. The comfort zone is a liar. It promises peace, but delivers regret. It tells you to wait for the right time, but the right time never shows up. It convinces you that slow and steady means security, but in a fast-moving world, standing still is the riskiest thing you can do. You can't grow muscles you don't use. You can't gain strength by avoiding resistance. The same principle applies to life, business, and mindset. You only build capacity through challenge. You only gain confidence through confrontation. Comfort is the enemy of expansion. And if you want to live a big life, you've got to get addicted to growth, not comfort. The reason most people never reach their full potential isn't because they lack talent or opportunity. It's because they keep retreating every time it gets uncomfortable. They start the business, but quit when the money doesn't come fast enough. They join the gym, but stop when it starts to hurt. They chase the dream, but back down when people don't believe in it. Comfort becomes their ceiling. They never stay long enough in discomfort to break through to the next level. They don't realize that discomfort is proof that transformation is happening. Pain is feedback that progress is being made. The more you lean into it, the more you grow. The zone you're in right now might feel familiar, but familiarity is not fulfillment. You weren't created to repeat yesterday forever. You were designed to expand, to evolve, to multiply what's inside you. That requires new experiences, new risks, new levels of challenge. You've got to do the things that scare you, the conversation you've been avoiding, the project you've been postponing, the decision you've been delaying. You can't wait for confidence to arrive. You build it by moving forward scared. Action dissolves fear. The faster you move, the smaller fear becomes. You have to rewire your relationship with discomfort. Stop running from it and start using it as a signal that you're on the right path. When something makes you nervous, that's the exact thing you should lean into. When something feels uncertain, that's where growth is waiting. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding pressure, but pressure is what creates diamonds. You can't shine without it. You can't evolve without it. Growth is supposed to feel awkward. That's how you know you're expanding into something bigger than yourself. The most successful people don't chase comfort. They chase capacity. They're obsessed with becoming more, doing more, creating more. They see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to upgrade their mindset. They understand that what feels uncomfortable today will feel natural tomorrow. They know that every season of discomfort is training for the next level. The person who avoids discomfort stays the same. The person who embraces it becomes unstoppable. Comfort will never give you what courage can. The minute you decide that growth is more valuable than ease, you start to unlock your true potential, and that's where everything changes. Doubt is the silent assassin of dreams. It creeps in quietly, disguising itself as logic, as caution, as realism. It tells you to wait until you're ready to gather more information, to get more validation before taking the next step. It sounds responsible, but it's really fear in disguise. Doubt doesn't stop you with walls. It stops you with hesitation. It makes you second guess your decisions, your ideas, your potential until you've talked yourself out of action. You start convincing yourself that maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you're not qualified enough. Maybe someone else would do it better. That's how potential dies, not from failure, but from hesitation. Every time you doubt yourself, you're reinforcing the idea that you can't trust your own power. You're handing your authority to fear. You can't lead your life if you don't trust your instincts. The people who rise to greatness aren't the ones who never feel doubt. They're the ones who move anyway. They've learned that confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite it. Doubt loves to whisper that you're not enough, but the truth is nobody starts as enough. You become enough through action. You gain belief by proving yourself right through effort. Waiting for confidence before acting is like waiting to get strong before you start lifting weights. The strength comes from the doing. Doubt multiplies in silence. The more you sit on your ideas, the louder it gets. That's why action is the antidote. The moment you move, the noise starts to fade. Movement creates clarity, And clarity kills doubt. But most people stay stuck in their heads, replaying worst case scenarios, building imaginary failures that never happen. They analyze instead of act. And over time, their analysis becomes paralysis. You can't think your way into certainty. You can only act your way into it. The mind settles when the mission is in motion. Doubt also feeds off comparison. When you start measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel, you give your confidence away. You start thinking you're behind when really you're just on a different timeline. Everyone's journey looks different because everyone's assignment is different. You can't let someone else's success become your insecurity. What they've achieved is proof of what's possible, not a limit on what's left for you. Use it as fuel, not fear. The moment you stop comparing, you regain your focus. The energy that was wasted on envy gets redirected toward execution. You have to understand that doubt is part of growth. It shows up every time you're about to level up. That nervous energy, that uncertainty, that little voice questioning if you're capable, that's the sign you're expanding. The greater the challenge, the louder the doubt, because your mind is trying to protect you from the unknown. But the unknown is exactly where your next level lies. Every breakthrough you've ever had happened right after a moment of hesitation. Every time you pushed past that internal resistance, you proved to yourself that you could handle more than you thought. Belief isn't built overnight. It's built brick by brick, decision by decision. Every time you act despite doubt, you stack evidence in your favor. You start rewriting your identity from someone who questions to someone who conquers. That's how momentum is built, through small wins that prove the voice of doubt wrong again and again. The problem isn't that you doubt yourself. The problem is that you listen to that doubt more than you listen to your vision. You can't serve two masters. Either you feed fear or you feed faith. One will grow, the other will die. When doubt hits, remind yourself of the facts, not your feelings. Feelings fluctuate, but facts remain. The fact is, you've survived every challenge before this one. The fact is, you've handled more than you thought you could. The fact is, you've been equipped with everything you need to move forward. The mind will always exaggerate the risk, but it rarely calculates the cost of staying the same. You think acting is dangerous, but stagnation is far more deadly. Doubt delays destiny. Every minute you spend questioning yourself is a minute you could have spent building proof that you're capable. The people who win aren't the ones who never doubt. They're the ones who choose faith anyway, who choose to bet on themselves even when they don't have all the answers, who choose to take imperfect action and figure it out on the way up.